Alright, y'all, welcome back to the channel. The UFC is not going to be on for this week, unfortunately, so I don't have a prediction video to fall back on. But instead, I think it's time we kind of go over so far what's been going on throughout 2026, now that we're about to hit the halfway mark. And I'm going to be talking about the worst predictions I have made throughout 2026, all right? Now, I'm going to say this. Overall, I think that I am a solid predictor. Not exactly the best by any means, but I wouldn't say I'm the worst. But some of these predictions, yeah, I must have been smoking some bullshit because I don't know what I was thinking for some of these. And that's what we're going to be focusing on today. So without wasting any more time, here are the worst takes I have had when it comes to predictions so far in 2026. Yeah, so right off the bat, I could argue that this was the worst take I could have had so far in 2026 because I thought that JDM was going to be Carlos Prates, all right? And don't get me wrong, I'm a big fan of both of these guys, but looking back at it, I think it's because of my personal hatred towards Ian Gary that I decided to pick JDM. All right, because I don't want to admit that Ian Gary is a hell of a fighter, because if you guys don't know, Ian Gary beat Carlos Prates a while back, but I just didn't want to admit that. So I kind of took that as bias and picked JDM to beat Carlos Prates via decision. But that couldn't be further from the truth, because Carlos Prates, not only did he brutally slime out JDM, but he was beating his ass throughout the entire fight, all right? Now, I knew that Carlos Prates had a realistic chance, but even if Carlos Prates were to win, I thought, okay, JDM's going to do well early on, just pick his shots better, and then before you know it, then CP will just brutally slime him out with, like, one punch down the pipe. But he didn't even get that opportunity because Prates was just mincing JDM's calves. He cracked him with some nice shots down the pipe. The knees up the middle were money. The elbows were devastating. Like, Carlos Prates thoroughly outstruck Jack Della Maddalena before finishing him in the third round, and it was kind of sad to see. So, yeah, I had a lot of faith in JDM. I thought that he was still elite of the elite. Just because you're losing to Islam Makhachev doesn't mean you're a fraud by any means. But Carlos Prates did really well this fight. And he minced up Jack Della Maddalena. And unfortunately, I thought that JDM was going to be better in this fight because I've seen Carlos Prates lose to Ian Gary. But it turns out that Ian Gary is also elite of the elite in the welterweight division. Now, I think a lot of people thought that Fluffy Hernandez was going to beat Sean Strickland because, again, most people thought that Sean Strickland was washed coming into this fight. I mean, he certainly didn't look good when he fought Dricus back in the Australia card last year. And it's also the fact that Fluffy Hernandez was looking like a world beater on the come-up, Like, I feel like a lot of us put too much stock into the Roman Dolidze win. And yes, Fluffy Hernandez looked like a god out there against Roman Dolidze, but it's also Roman Dolidze. And I also thought that Strickland wouldn't mix things up, which is why I went with Fluffy Hernandez. I was like saying, oh, Strickland just does the same things over and over again, a jab and a teep and an occasional right hand. Even if he wrestles, it's all defensive, so Fluffy Hernandez is just going to put him on the back foot. And I thought that Strickland was eventually going to get overwhelmed by the pressure. That couldn't be further from the truth because Strickland just absolutely picked apart Fluffy Hernandez and eventually TKO'd him in the third round. And not only that, he also mixed things up. He threw a knee to the body. He invented the knee to the body at the age of 34, folks. And before you know it, Fluffy Hernandez, I didn't consider that he had a weakness to the body coming into this fight because, again, I never thought of Strickland as someone who can throw body shots all that effectively. But in this fight, he thoroughly outstruck Fluffy Hernandez, and he was able to neutralize all the takedowns. And unfortunately for us as big fluffy fans, we were thoroughly wrong with this fight, so it was very unfortunate to say the least. Now, moving on, we got the Maycee Barber beats Alexa Grasso take that I had. I thought that Alexa Grasso coming into this fight was completely checked out. You know, she lost to Natalia Silva, and she lost to Shevchenko in a kind of embarrassing fashion. And I thought that if this fight were to be close, the UFC judges were going to give it to Maycee Barber because Maycee Barber was hot. All right, but this fight, not only was it not close, Maycee Barber got posterized in one of the most brutal knockouts of the year. All right, I might even consider this knockout of the year unless something more shocking happens. Because the way Maycee Barber fell down after Grasso cracked her with the right hand, it was absolutely insane to watch live. So, unfortunately for me, I got this pick wrong once again. I am happy for Alexa Grasso, though, because I used to be a big believer in Grasso, but because she didn't look all that good over the last several years, I thought she was kind of checked out. But in this fight, she still proved that she's top caliber in the women's flyweight division, and she's basically back on track to possibly getting a title shot in the future, depending on her next couple of matchups. So, good job for Maycee Barber. I'm sorry, Alexa Grasso, but yeah, Maycee Barber, I thought that she was going to be better than this. Yeah, moving on, we got Patricio, Pitbull, fraud checks, Aaron Pico. Yeah, I was one of the dumbasses that actually thought that Pitbull was going to do something at the age of 39 against Aaron Pico. Now, to be fair, Aaron Pico is rather untested because Pico just, got an immediate number one contenders fight in his debut in the UFC without even winning a Bellator belt. So, I was kind of doubting him for the longest time because I thought that he was a fraud that the UFC are trying to build up, Project Bo Nickel, if you will. But in this fight, Pico just styled on Patricio Pitbull throughout the 3 rounds of this fight. I was actually really shocked because Pitbull, I thought that he was still going to be decent level. He beat Dan Ige. And Dan Ige at the time was looked at as a bottom of the rankings of a fighter. And I didn't even consider Pico, on the other hand, to be a ranked caliber fighter in the first place. So I thought that coming into this fight that Pitbull is going to be very experienced. He's going to find his shots and eventually crack Aaron Pico's chin because Pico has a history of being chinny. But in this fight, Pico just thoroughly outstruck Patricio Pitbull, and I was actually shocked that Pitbull didn't get knocked out, because Pico was landing some crazy knockout shots in this fight. But yeah, in this fight, I thought of Aaron Pico as a complete fraud, but it turns out that he's actually pretty solid when he's not getting knocked out immediately in the first round. Now, last but not least, I got to talk about Alexander Hernandez knocking out Rafa Garcia. Again, this was one of my more confident takes recently, and safe to say it was wrong. Yeah, I thought that Rafa Garcia was mid. He took Jared Gordon on one leg to the 3rd round. He looked really mid against guys like Vince Pichel. He got TKO'd by Grant Dawson. There wasn't anything good to look at when it comes to Rafa Garcia's performances. Whereas Hernandez, on the other hand, I thought that, he's on a 5-fight win streak. He got knocked guys out like Chase Hooper and Carlos Diego Ferreira. I was really impressed with the Carlos Diego Ferreira win, and I thought that Hernandez was going to do the same to Rafa Garcia because I thought of Garcia as completely mid. But in this fight, Hernandez got thoroughly rinsed in the boxing. Garcia was just landing that jab on him all night long, and it was kind of embarrassing because Garcia, honestly, he did Hernandez worse than what he did to Jared Gordon on one leg. All right, at least Jared Gordon was able to fight through a little bit before getting TKO'd, but in this fight, there was no chance for Hernandez to come back, all right, because Garcia was just way better when it comes to the boxing. And even in the wrestling, while Hernandez was able to defend the takedowns, Garcia didn't really have to fear anything when it comes to submissions or any risk of getting reversed. All right, so in this fight, Alexander Hernandez kind of let me down. I thought that he was a lot better than Rafa Garcia, but Rafa Garcia just proved that he's not as mid as I thought, and he thoroughly beat Alexander Hernandez over the course of 3 rounds, and safe to say that was one of my worst picks that I've had over the year of 2026. Alright, that's going to be it for this video. If you guys want to see more videos like this, please make sure to like and subscribe so we can monetize this channel. But leave your comments down below what you guys think about this list, as well as any other videos you have for me in the comments down below. But otherwise, though, I will see you guys next time. Peace.